Have you ever wondered how a man born on a small Mediterranean island could rise to rule an empire that spanned Europe? Let's journey back to the year 1769 to the rugged island of Corsica. Here, in the midst of political turbulence, a child named Napoleon Bonaparte was born. His parents, of minor nobility, could hardly have imagined the extraordinary destiny that awaited their second son. Young Napoleon, far removed from the power centers of France, spent his early years in a world of rocky coasts and Corsican nationalism. His initial education was at a local school where he learned to speak the Corsican dialect and Italian. At the tender age of 9, Napoleon was sent to mainland France for his further education. The boy from the island was now entering the grand stage of French society, a world of elegance and power, a world he would one day conquer. From these humble beginnings, a legendary figure was born whose name would resonate through the annals of history. Napoleon's journey to power began on the battlefields of the French Revolution. A time of turbulence and change, the revolution was the crucible in which the young Corsican officer's destiny was forged. Napoleon Bonaparte, not yet 30, demonstrated an uncanny strategic genius that swiftly propelled him up the ranks of the French military. His first notable achievement came during the siege of Toulon in 1793, where his tactical brilliance led to the recapture of the city from the British. This victory earned him a promotion to brigadier general, a testament to his exceptional ability. But this was just the beginning of his meteoric rise. In the following years, Napoleon's reputation as a military prodigy grew. He led successful campaigns in Italy and Egypt, demonstrating not just tactical acumen, but also a capacity for innovative warfare. His Italian campaign was particularly noteworthy, where he defeated Austrian forces, reshaping the political landscape of the Italian peninsula. In Egypt, although ultimately a strategic failure, Napoleon's cultural and scientific interests shone through. He brought along a team of scientists and artists who documented the country's ancient civilization, leading to significant advancements in Egyptology. Napoleon's victories and the respect he commanded among his troops made him a revered figure. His name became synonymous with the ideals of the revolution: liberty, equality, and fraternity. The revolution had found its hero, but Napoleon had bigger ambitions. The stage was now set for his ascent to power. In 1799, the hero of the revolution seized power in a coup, forever changing the political landscape of France. Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of strategic brilliance and boundless ambition, was on the rise, and nothing would ever be the same again. The establishment of the consulate marked a significant turning point in French history. Napoleon, leveraging his military reputation and the political chaos of the time, positioned himself as the first consul. This was no mere title, but a declaration of his intent to reshape France, and reshape it he did. In 1804, Napoleon declared himself emperor, a crowning achievement that placed him at the helm of a nation ready to follow him into battle. His reign was characterized by a series of conflicts that we now know as the Napoleonic Wars. These wars, driven by Napoleon's vision of a French-dominated Europe, spread far and wide, from the Iberian Peninsula to the heart of Russia. Napoleon's victories at Austerlitz and Jena Auerstedt demonstrated his military genius and further established French dominance. Yet, even as he stood at the pinnacle of power, the seeds of his downfall were being sown. His ambition, as vast as the territories he sought to conquer, would eventually lead him down a path of costly setbacks. Napoleon had reached the pinnacle of power, but his ambition would also lead to his downfall. Despite his military genius, Napoleon's ambition led him into costly setbacks. The continental system, which aimed at the economic isolation of Britain, was one of these. It was a plan that backfired, leading to increased tensions and ultimately the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Here, Napoleon suffered a crushing defeat. Simultaneously, the Peninsular War was raging. It was a conflict that saw Napoleon's Grand Army face insurmountable challenges. Fierce resistance from Spanish guerrillas, coupled with the involvement of British troops, resulted in a prolonged and costly war. It was a war that would drain the French resources and morale, marking a turning point in Napoleon's fortunes. Another significant setback was the ill-fated Russian campaign. Napoleon had hoped to force Tsar Alexander I of Russia back into the continental system. But the harsh Russian winter and the scorched earth policy adopted by the Russians proved disastrous for the French. The Grand Army was decimated, and this campaign marked the beginning of the end of Napoleon's reign. Despite these setbacks, Napoleon was not one to accept defeat easily. He was forced to abdicate his throne in 1814 following the capture of Paris by coalition forces. Exiled to the island of Elba, he made a daring escape in February of 1815, returning to mainland France. Greeted by cheering crowds, he embarked on a campaign to reconquer lost French territories. However, his comeback was short-lived. In June 1815, the French army invaded Belgium, aiming to defeat a combined British and Prussian force. The Battle of Waterloo that followed was a disaster for Napoleon. Despite initial success against the Prussians, the arrival of British reinforcements turned the tide. The French were defeated, and Napoleon's threat to Europe was permanently ended. He was exiled once again, this time to the remote island of St. Helena, where he would spend his final years. The emperor had fallen, but his story was far from over. Despite his downfall, Napoleon left an indelible mark on history. His reign, while marked by authoritarianism and war, also brought about significant legal reforms. The Napoleonic Code, a civil law code established under his rule, was a revolutionary step. It promoted principles like equality before the law and the right to choose one's profession, principles that are still held dear today. His rule also saw advancements in education with the establishment of the University of France, a centralized educational system. His influence extended beyond France, with many European countries adopting elements of his reforms, shaping the continent's legal and educational landscapes. Napoleon's final years were spent in exile on the remote island of St. Helena, a stark contrast to the grandeur of his reign. Isolated and stripped of power, he spent his time dictating his memoirs, reflecting on his life and rule. It was here in 1821 that Napoleon breathed his last, leaving behind a legacy that continues to reverberate through the corridors of history. Now let's delve into some interesting facts about this fascinating figure. Did you know that despite his image as a towering figure, Napoleon was actually of average height for his time? Or that he was not French by birth, but Corsican? He also had a fascination for bees, which he saw as symbols of industriousness and resurrection, and often incorporated them into his imperial insignia. Napoleon was also known for his voracious reading habits and had a particular fondness for the works of Goethe and Voltaire. He was also a prolific letter writer, penning thousands during his lifetime. A lesser-known fact is that he was afraid of cats, a condition known as ailurophobia. Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of humble origins and towering ambition, left a legacy that continues to shape our world today. His story serves as a reminder of the potent mix of ambition, brilliance, and power, and the profound impact it can have on the course of history.